This is the Backlog Exposed podcast, bringing you weekly discussions on gaming, as well as quick insights into sports, entertainment, and anything else that we can think of. To get in touch with us, ask questions, or just hang out and chat, join us in the Backlog Exposed Discord. Follow us on Twitter at @TheBacklogPod, or send us an email at thebacklogexposed@gmail.com. You can find all of our social media information, as well as many different ways to listen to our podcast by visiting our website, thebacklogexposed.com.
I'm Joe.
I'm Kevin.
And we are
The Backlog
Exposed.
Hey everybody, welcome to another edition of The Backlog Exposed. Today is October 18th, 2018, and we're talking about episode 21 of The Backlog Exposed. Now, we haven't had Joe on for a few episodes. He's got a lot going on. The main thing is when we record, his wife is in the middle of doing some testing and some real-world stuff, so we got to give her the laptop. And so if anyone wants to give Joe a laptop, feel free to shout us out. Kidding, really. But no, he has to make way for her to get her stuff done. So he'll be back. He's not leaving us. He's here. He's here to stay, and J&K all the way. But Joe, if you're listening, shout out. Get back over here soon, because I flounder without you. But because I flounder, I know how to reach out to my contacts. So with us today, we have Alex. Alex is from the PlayPSVR podcast. And I actually had the benefit of joining them, Alex and Adam, on the podcast for PlayPSVR. It was a lot of fun, and these guys have a great podcast with a lot of content that gives you all that you need for PSVR. And they have a pretty steady schedule of once a week, and they don't seem to miss a beat. So Alex, without further ado, how you doing today?
I am doing fantastic. You said this is a J and K show. This is the J and K and A show now, man. It's Alex. I'm in the house. I'm here to support you and Joe in whatever you guys do. Joe, we're wishing you the best right now, man. And I'm gonna try to fill these gigantic shoes that you left here on the floor for me. And I'm gonna try to keep this show afloat in your absence, at least for the night, at least for the evening. So Kevin, yeah, I'm doing great. Thanks for the wonderful introduction. Yeah, PlayPSVR, the podcast, and I just want to, kind of sad news, but in a way kind of good for us. I just want to say we might be the only PSVR exclusive podcast on the interwaves.
That
right
news
now.
Kind of shocked me.
Press F.
Yeah, I mean, that was also another one
right?
that I was able to get on, and a couple of weeks. I mean, it was maybe a month or two ago. I was a guest there, and it didn't seem at that point like he was ready to drop it. However, He kind of hinted, this is Danthal we're talking about, he kind of hinted that he was going to either take some breaks or try to get a permanent co-host and things like that. And then he just kind of out of the blue, if you listen to his last couple of podcasts, you kind of gathered that he was just not into it anymore. What do you think?
Yeah, I got the exact same feelings. And to be honest, I guess maybe about a month ago, we were just getting game after game after game for PSVR. And, it's really a blessing, and I shouldn't complain about getting to play all these amazing games on PSVR, but there were so many games out there. And, I recently just did a big move and just started a new job, and doing all of that and trying to keep up with this crazy schedule of games. And like you said, me and Adam try to do something every week. I have to admit, I myself was like, is this sustainable? Can I keep this up? And I'm not doing it myself. It's me and Adam working together on this. So I can only imagine how that dude must feel. I mean, he had guests, but
yeah,
dude
and
must have been wearing out. So I don't begrudge him for dropping it, but it's rougher work than it seems. It takes a lot of time, and people, time
seriously,
is
and you and I were talking a little bit about
days.
this before we started recording. But yeah, I mean, the editing and all of that goes along with this. People like Joe Rogan, who have teams of people who put this stuff together in a high production quality, they have the skill sets and the wherewithal to put this stuff together pretty easily. We gotta learn, we gotta edit, we gotta cut out all the sneezes and the hiccups and all that stuff that you don't want aired, because all of it all happens. But on top of that, you gotta advertise, you gotta find, you gotta be doing things outside of this. And he, being one of the top VR, at least from a viewpoint perspective, top VR podcasts, he had a lot going on. So I don't, like you said, I don't blame him either. If you're not into it, especially when a whole bevy of games start coming out, it probably just kicked his ass, and he said, you know what, if I'm going to be the best, I got to be able to play them all, and he just doesn't have it. So, Danthal, we wish you well. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for providing the content that you did. So, long live PSVR life.
Yeah. And long live Play PSVR, the podcast.
Yeah,
subscribe, like, and subscribe on iTunes, baby.
Seriously, no, you guys do have pretty much, you can Google it. You'll find a couple of, but like there's some guys, the Handsome Phantom guys, I don't know if you've listened to them, but they kind of bounce from types of show to types of show. So they did a VR show, and I haven't gotten an update recently. They've kind of got a Fortnite only podcast taken over, and maybe I'm wrong there. Maybe they are still doing it, but it's not as consistent. So yeah, you guys are riding tall. You got the great website name. You got the content. So I urge all my listeners to get over there, playpsvr.com. They also have a ton of reviews, and they do a good job of getting that stuff out there so that so that you can kind of like what we do, but on a much bigger scale. Because what we're doing over here is we don't have a ton of time. So we're only going to talk about the things that interest us. Well, these guys are over there playing every game that they can get their hands on. So more power to you guys for that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and we're, we try to be as professional as possible about it, but we're amateurs. We're doing this on our free time. Adam and I know absolutely nothing, it seems, about web design and content creation and editing and stuff. And so we're kind of, if you listen to our first episodes, it sounds pretty trash. And we learned pretty quickly how to get things set up going. I like to think we're at a decent spot now, but we still have technical issues here and there, and we're still learning as we're going. And I'm enjoying learning. It's nice to have an extra skill set up my sleeve. And I'm a person who just devours podcasts nonstop, and so I'm happy to get to be a part of creating one, even if maybe we have 5 people who listen to it regularly. That's fine. I'm enjoying the creation process, and if this becomes something big, then I'm happy with that. And if it doesn't become something big, maybe I can use these skills to, make a podcast in some other arena. I don't know. But yeah, we're having fun with it. We try to stay consistent. And that's the big thing. We're trying to have as much fun with it as possible while still putting out a good show, good content for everybody too.
Yeah, seriously. And this is actually a good segue to something I wanted to talk to you about, because while you're doing this and you're putting what you can into it, I know you have a daughter, right?
Yes.
How old is she? Is she like under 10?
Yeah, she's 2.5.
Oh wow.
So she's she's just a little bit older than the PSVR.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to put it. Damn. So you're coming into the fun times here. The 2.5, getting into 3 is when they start really getting into things. And yeah, while you're trying to get stuff done, you're gonna have to be running around stopping you from getting stuff done.
Yeah, and so I just basically, I'm fortunate enough to where my wife stays home and watches my daughter for most of the day. Nice. And she goes to daycare sometimes too. And when I come home, it's basically just playing daddy until about 8 o'clock. And then that gives me like a good, 8 to 10, but I make it go 8 to 12, 8 to 1 sometimes, of just like hardcore gaming time, podcast time, getting my own thing done. And then, it's off to work the next day. But yeah, I can only imagine once she's a bit more mobile, and she's already pretty tall, and she's already kind of getting into stuff, but she's well behaved. But I've heard the term three-nager, as in like a teenager with the emotional stability of a teenager. Yeah, I know that's around the corner. I've seen glimpses of it. I'm not excited about it, but I'm it comes with the territory.
Well, the other thing too, and this is all old wives' tales, but the boys are easier when they're older and hard when they're younger, and girls are easier when they're younger and harder when they're older. So you might get lucky there. And I don't know if you can hear them in the background, but I have to keep muting my microphone and screaming because my 2 boys who they're 7 and 4, they don't understand be quiet or go to bed or things like that, and they just are literally right now, knowing that they're going to get in trouble when this is over, they're just going wah as loud as they can. So so that's what.
Yeah, I mean, I feel kind of like a jerk because I know I'm not the only person in the world that has a kid, and I honestly, all things considered, my daughter is excellent, and she's one of the best behaved children I think I've ever seen. And still, I use that as the ultimate excuse. So there's people that, I work with people who have like 3 kids, and still I'll come in late one day and be like, oh, I have a kid and I'm like tired and stuff. And it's really not fair to everybody. The person I mostly compare my life to is Adam, who doesn't have any children. And so he has all this time to play games, and he's living that adult life with no kids and having a good time. And so I'm just like, oh, my life is so busy and he's got nothing. And it's not really fair. Like guys like you, I don't see how, anytime I hear somebody has more than one kid, I don't see how they do it. And that might be me one day, but it's just,
it's a
already
work in
like
progress.
stretching me.
But with my 7-year-old, he is now he's doing his chores, and I'm not a shy guy when it comes to this stuff. He's taking out the trash, he's sweeping the floors, vacuuming the floors, cleaning the baseboards. If he wants his allowance, and now we got V-Bucks to taunt him with, so he plays Fortnite.
What is V-Bucks?
V-Bucks is the currency in
V-Bucks.
Fortnite. Yeah. So
okay.
He wants, a skin or something, and I'm not buying him all that crap, but, I'll give him a $5 allowance or whatever, and if he does all of his chores, but I'm also a hard ass. If he doesn't do one day, if he skips them, he's done. He doesn't get the money for the week. So, but he's been doing it. So not only do I get to enjoy getting the house cleaner, but, he's learning responsibility and learning how to spend his money. So it's like, oh, I want the backpack, but I'll lose all of my allowance if I buy that. And I'm like, now when I tell you we can't have that thing at the store, now you can understand. So it's good. It's a learning experience. And at the same time, he's getting better at playing games. So it's not so much of a pretend to play with him and have fun, but he can hold his own and play Fortnite. He just gets really discouraged when he loses and things. So that's the tough battle now. But I mean, I try to explain to him, you play 10 games, that's 1,000 people. So if you came in third, any one of those times, you've done better than 900 people, Yeah. So, and he's like, oh, wow, you start putting it in perspective. He gets excited and stuff. So I actually like playing with him. A lot of the friends I play with, Joe being one of them, they don't play the games I play near as much as I play them. So Fortnite is my go-to because of just how easy it is to grab and go and turn off and stuff. But like my buddy Jed, he used to play religiously with me on Fortnite, but then we switched over to Save the World, played that for a very long time, kind of got away from the Battle Royale for a while, and then you get to a point in that version of the game where you're like, all right, what's the point? We got here, but what's the point? And so, with a lot of games these days, they play to perpetuate you showing up, and rather than just letting you finish the game and be done with it, and I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and they were actually it was the Handsome Phantom guys talking about Fortnite, and they did a history of Epic Games, and there was so much I didn't even realize that they created the Unreal Engine and Unreal Tournament and all that. For some reason, I thought this was a different version of Epic, like a different company. And I think
it kind of is, right? Like there was that Cliffy B dude. I think he was a big part of Epic Games, and then he went off to do his own group.
Yep.
I don't know if there was a buyout or if there was a split or if it just, some people gradually dissolved out. Kind of like how the Rare that is under Microsoft isn't the same Rare that was, making games for N64. Yeah. I think that might be the situation. But yeah, Epic, I'm really blown away that they are still around after the old days of Unreal Tournament, and they are making the most profitable game ever.
Ever. Yeah. They were saying that a company came along, the same company that helped League of Legends, and their concept is games as a service as opposed to games as a product. So, like their product is to have a game that lasts forever. The service is Fortnite. There's seasons as opposed to endings, and there's no level cap. There's no levels at all. I mean, there's a season level cap, and then you start over again back at zero. So it's like, it's such from a business model, you can't blame them. I mean, it's a phenomenal business model. But at the same time, I get sucked in on games like this, and I enjoy it. There's no reason for me to say I hate Fortnite. A lot of people do, but I enjoy it. And there's no end. So I fall into that same trap knowingly, and I do it on a regular basis. Same with Neverwinter and games like that, where there's just no ending. And I like to play a lot of games, so my backlog is enormous, and I try to dig into that backlog. I try to play games, but because of the limited time I have, I tend to go with what's easiest to jump into, and so right now it's Fortnite. But then Call of Duty just came out, and I've been playing a bit of that, but that's funner to play with friends, and for me anyways, and I just haven't seen Joe online or some of the people I normally play with. As people get older, they stop getting on as much, and stupid video game geek me is on as much as I can be. So
I'm the same way. I mean, none of my friends still play games too much. Adam is one of the only ones I know in real life that still plays a lot of games. I have another friend who he plays a lot of hockey games, and he just got a PlayStation 4 recently, and so I see him on a lot playing NHL and Fallout 4. But he's, I'm not going to get him on some multiplayer VR game just to fart around and have fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I know what you say. It's interesting you described Fortnite as a trap. I rarely hear people talk about the addictive nature of it and like as if it was a positive thing. That's something that I, being a longtime gamer, I have a very healthy backlog in the sense that it is huge, humongous, and it's constantly growing. And that's something that I had to decide. I made a conscious decision, I think maybe just before I went to college, that I can't afford to play the games that have no end. I was deep into Counter-Strike and Diablo 2 and these games that you can essentially play forever. And I just had to decide, like, these games look super awesome. I know they're so fun. Everybody's enjoying them. And I just I can't take a bite out of it because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to play, 18 hours or something like that. And then look, and I'm no closer to being done with the game than I was when I started. And I just can't, I don't know. I like to have progress. I like to think of games as being almost like a book or a movie or a TV series, and it's something that I can finish and put on the shelf and then, think back on what happened and what I did and then come back to it later maybe if I want to and talk about that experience. I don't know, that's not how a lot of people play games. The games as a service model sounds, like what a lot of people are looking for. They're looking for something to something active and engaging and fun to play gameplay wise. And I don't blame them for that because, it's video games, right? It's games. It's not supposed to be time that's well spent. And so I can't blame people for playing it. It's just something personally. I try to hold my games to a really high standard, and I try to hold my time to a really high standard. And I like to get some completion out of it to some degree, regardless of the fact that I rarely complete games.
Speaking of high standards, I noticed the other day I saw you playing Stunt Kite Master VR.
The highest standards, yeah.
No, but it's funny, for those of you who listen to his podcast, they talk about that quite a bit, and it's true to form. He plays it. It's not a joke. So I saw it with my own eyes.
It's funny that you bring that up after I talk extensively about how I like to play games that have an end. This is a game that essentially has no end. But what just like the thing about it is that it's meditative. To me, it's almost like meditation. It's like a prescription I'd give myself. I need to play so many minutes of this game that is very relaxing and it's not super engaging or anything like that. I have the kite up in the air and I might be dodging RC planes, or I might be grabbing stars or something like that, or I might just be flying around and leaving smoke trails or something to listen to music. And I build a meta narrative in my mind that nobody else will understand as to what's happening in the game and the story. And it's nice to just sit back and relax, kind of feel a gentle rumble in my hand of the move controllers. I can't explain it to anybody. I try explaining it to Adam. He thinks I'm the biggest idiot in the world. I recommended this game to somebody else, and they watched me while I was streaming it, and they were like, "Oh, so is this the whole game?" And I was like, "Yeah, it's great." And they were like, "I'm so glad I didn't waste $55 on this." I was like, "Okay, whatever." So I don't want to recommend the game. If somebody plays it and they hate it based off my recommendation, then I'm absolutely sorry. But man, it does something for my soul. I don't know. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, that's the thing with VR, though. There's so many different new types of things that you can get yourself into. And I say new, they've been around for a couple of years now, but even just the small experiences where you're sitting on a beach, you can make the best out of it. A lot of what's weird about VR, I find it a little weird, is that the expectation is the games must be free or $2 when no one's going to make video games if they can't make money off of it. And I think a great example of that is Preda Vendetta Rising. I know that's been out for a while, but I got a review code for it from the gaming company. Really sad story with what happened to those guys. I talked about it a little bit last week, but they put their heart and soul into this game, and I heard some reviews about it. I thought this was going to be a shit game. I jump in, and I think it's one of the better games on PlayStation VR, and there's obviously some quirks about it, and the whole like length of it, and the repetitiveness of it. But if you were to cut that down to a 6 to 10 hour game, I'd play the hell out of it from beginning to end, no questions asked.
Yeah, did you read Adam's review on it? I mean, I haven't read Adam's review on it, but
Adam raved about it. So, and I agree with him on almost every point he made. And I actually emailed the guy who, the guy who created the game, and because he really was down on himself. He did a Reddit AMA about it and basically trashed himself and said, I wanted to make something that made everyone happy, and no one was happy. But I think it's people's expectations are a little bit shot here. Coming into a new technology, the developers are limited to what Sony and Oculus and all these companies give them the power to build. So they're trying to build for PC, they're trying to build for PlayStation, and they're trying to make a maximum amount of profit in doing so. And so they have limitations, especially with like the PlayStation VR limitations and the strict requirements that Sony puts on them as they're trying to deploy their products and stuff. So they whether they rushed to get this thing out or just didn't have a good marketing strategy or whatever. I don't know what it was, but I think if this game popped in at the store on sale at $10 with one minor patch that helped reduce the length of it, people would be scratching their heads going, why didn't I know about this? Why didn't I buy it? Because I think that game looks phenomenal and it plays fine. It's a good game.
I'm really interested in it. Adam talks about it, and the things he says about it makes me excited about it. I haven't watched very much footage of it, so I have zero expectations going in, except for it almost sounds like a VR version of Diablo.
Yes, that's exactly what it feels like. Now, did you ever play Tethered?
No, I haven't played Tethered.
Okay, so the reason I bring that up is it just gave me this feeling. Tethered, you're kind of an eye in the sky looking down. And this particular game, yeah, it's got that Diablo angle, but with the perspective that you're looking down at the character, kind of like in Tethered, but you can look around the whole map. So your character's walking in front of you, but you can turn around and see the whole world that this character is walking through. Obviously that's the VR aspect, but you can go down and you can drop yourself down into first person view. I didn't prefer that as much. But when you get that high level view, the graphics they look really good, and it feels like you're playing a tabletop game almost.
Yeah, man, I love that effect in the 3D games, or in the third person games in VR, and it's something that I think was underappreciated going in, and still underappreciated by a lot of the VR crowd. And when I heard PSVR is coming out, one of the first things I wanted to try was Dark Souls in VR, and I didn't want it to be first person. I wanted to play just like the normal Dark Souls, but you have a VR perspective in the sense that you can just kind of look around also while your character's walking, because it's the difference of watching your character walk down like a narrow path, even though it's out in an open field, it's a narrow path, or feeling like you are in an open field and this character is running around you. So I could see why Preda Vendetta would just be like this amazing game and wonderful experience. But like you said, I've heard the grind thing about it. I don't have that much time to dedicate to it. And it's a bit pricey. Like you said, if it's $10, I'd probably drop. And if there was a patch that came out to make it, beatable within a reasonable amount of time, I would definitely be picking it up.
If this thing were to drop for $10, I would say it's more than worth it. Even if it were reduced to a 6-hour game, just the gameplay alone and the graphics, and the story's not bad. The story's not horrible. I actually started to get into it. But what's funny about it is I'm going back in, even though I know it's going to be a daunting task to try to beat it. I'm going to give it my all. I'm going to play a little bit here and a little bit there, and try to get further in the game. And I'm hoping that this guy replies to me, and hope I give him a little bit of oomph to get in there and put his free time into making another patch, because he told me he's not allowed to work on the clock on this game anymore because of the company that bought out his company or whatever. So, hey, it is what it is, but it's just that's a sleeper out there, I think. Games like that, and there's so many in VR that but what I was getting at is that people's expectations, they want everything to be either free or so good it blows your mind beyond belief. And the market's getting bigger, but we're still in the first iteration of this VR life cycle for all the devices, and these gaming companies are testing the waters with what they can do before they dump literally everything into it in fear that it may fail. So companies like EA and these bigger gaming companies are dabbling a little bit here and there. You hear experiences and things like that. They're testing the waters. They're probably putting things together, putting a plan in place for, next time, next generation. But who knows?
Yeah, I liken this stage of VR gaming to the early stages of actual video gaming, where you had like the NES came out and somebody made something revolutionary like Super Mario Brothers, and then suddenly everybody's like, oh, I'm going to make a platformer, where you have this new medium, more or less, of video games, and you have new companies, sometimes smaller companies, that are trying out new things, and you're kind of just throwing a bunch of stuff at the wall and seeing what sticks. And for example, Japan Studio, they throw Astrobot at the wall in the form of a demo on the PSVR demo disc, and everyone falls in love with it, and they demand.
And look how long that took. From a big studio, It took a couple of years for that big studio to put this polished game out. So these smaller companies just don't, they might not have the resources. But yeah, Astrobot, man, oh my goodness, what a fun game!
Yeah, it was highly demanded, and it's one of those things that nobody would have thought that one of the most in-demand games would have been a platformer like Super Mario 64 in VR, and it's third person. And the true magic of a game like Astrobot is something that you wouldn't know would be there until you play it, and that's why that's the hard thing about VR.
Like having to look around corners to find you could in a flat game, I guess, move the camera, but the way that they position it, you have to do the peeking, you have to use the elements around you to find these little robots, and they their reactions are funny. The graphics look phenomenal. I mean, it's clear as day, and the music is good. I mean, I'm really enjoying it. I played only about an hour and a half of it, but I put my 4-year-old in there, and he was having a lot of fun. It was challenging for him. He couldn't really get too far, but he was like, "What the heck?" It was blowing his mind just being in that little world. So
yeah.
But if you took the robot out, right, and you put Nintendo's name on this game, and you just changed that one thing, that robot with Mario, this would be talked about as the greatest game that's ever lived. By all
are you talking about if it was still in VR? If Nintendo made a VR and it was not even Mario Rescue?
I'm talking about this game. If you took this specific game and you just changed the robot to Mario, and you put Nintendo and you put Mario in the title. Like, this particular game it's Mario, but it's Sony's version of Mario, and it's like you said, it's like a Mario 64 or something. It's like a platformer, but the world itself even feels like Mario could be put into it. And I think if you just change the script a little bit and said this is a Mario game, everybody and their mother would be talking about this game being the best game ever, and what a revolutionary thing. And they are doing that. I mean, this is getting great reviews. I'm not trying to downplay what they're getting, but at the same time, it would be universally looked at, and it would be a must-have VR thing just by putting that name on there. So I think they have something really special here, and I hope that Sony continues to push this Astrobot as a like an iconic character for the VR, especially for the next generation of VR, because that's what they need. They need a symbol or something to kind of push it forward, to have people fall in love, so they have that game or series of games that they must get every generation, like the Marios and like the, what does Xbox got anymore? I don't know, like the Call of Duties and whatever, but
well, yeah, this feels like a flagship launch title of any other console, and it's unfortunate that we couldn't have this be the game that came out with the PSVR, but it's out now, and we're happy about it. And I want to give my hats off to Sony, and I want to congratulate them for what they've done. It seems like since the inception of the PlayStation, Sony has been looking for that character, that game to really stand up to Super Mario 64. It seems like they tried with Spyro. They tried with Crash Bandicoot. They tried with Ratchet. They tried with Jack and Daxter. They tried with Sly Cooper. They had all these, cute and charismatic characters that, they were successful, but they never really landed with a mainstream audience. And I've played all those games, but Astrobot is the first time that I played a game, and I was absolutely charmed by the character of it. The kind of charm that you get with Mario Sunshine, even Mario Galaxy, Mario 64.
Absolutely.
And it's unfortunate that Sony finally pulls this off on a system that is limited to 3 million people. And I'm wondering if Astrobot has legs to where it could stand on its own if they made like a 2D version of Astrobot, or if that charm is something inherent to the VR nature where he's running by you and he's turning and waving at you. Or, I had an experience in one of the later worlds. You go underwater and Astrobot was above me and he fell down and landed on the screen and he was hugging the screen and looking at me. And it was absolutely adorable. And he waved at me and it's like, I didn't want to move. I had a connection with Astrobot that I had never had with Mario. I had never wanted to like cuddle and squeeze a video game character as much as I wanted to right then and there. So, hats off to Sony. You finally pulled it off. You finally made this like character that has like this transcendental charm to it that so many people are looking for, that I think the only time anybody's done it is maybe with Pikachu, and maybe with Mario and Yoshi. And now they finally have it. And I hope it doesn't go unnoticed. And I hope there's a long, successful legacy of Astrobot after this first initial foray. It's absolutely fantastic what they've done, what this character is, and what it is for Sony to do this, to pull it off with this character.
And to piggyback on that, going back to when the Playroom first came out, when when PlayStation 4 first came out, and you had the Playroom, my kid loved it. I mean, he always wanted to go back to that Playroom, and I don't know if you've ever dabbled there, but you can throw the camera on, it looks at your living room or whatever, and the robots kind of climb around, and you can throw a bunch out there. And then they added like a second screen thing where you could draw objects and throw them into the room. It was so clever. They did not push it, and they didn't really go too much deeper. They did a couple of things, but they just kind of, it seemed like their development team for that, they just said, okay, well, we're done with this free stuff. And then they did a Playroom VR, which had some cool stuff, but it, like he was saying, they did have the Astrobot, or it was called Robot Rescue or something like that. And, that was a demo. It was like a one level thing. My wife, who doesn't like VR, she played the whole level without complaining or anything like that. And, it was good. I mean, and my other son played a bunch of that back in the day when I first got the VR. So, it's got something that's got legs, and it's something that I think could sell units. I mean, I think this is a system seller in a capacity of looking at the right age. Now they sell this thing as saying 12 and under can't play it, but let's be real, that's who's going to buy this. That's who's going to push this. So just like playing Fortnite or Call of Duty, there's always going to be kids there playing whether you want them to or not. But one other thing I want to point out is one of the you hear Alex saying it, everybody says how cute and huggable and all that stuff this character is. And if you try to be macho or so, I don't care about that. Well, you get into this game and you can't help it. This character,
it melts you.
It's done so well, and it's personal. Like, you're in this headset, it's just you and the robot, and you honestly feel like you're saving this little thing and his friends. And they did a great job of implementing that, so it's not just like a thing that happens in the game, but it's like it reacts to you and what you do. So if you look at it, or he's running by and you hit a button, he'll be like, hey, how you doing, or whatever, and he'll wave at you. And it's very charming. And even if you're a big macho camacho and you don't want to deal with that, don't worry about it. No one can see your eyes tearing up as you're trying to save this robot inside that headset. So I think this is a must buy. Not even a should buy, it's a must buy. I'm telling Joe, this should be the reason you buy VR, because this is the type of game he would play.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful game, and it should be a system seller. If only Sony could set up some demo stations again and have people come and play this game. People have so many preconceptions about VR and whether or not they're going to like it and whether or not they need it. And if they just tried it, and especially if they just tried this game, I'm trying to get Adam to just try this game, and he won't do it. because he's stubborn like that, and he, like
Yeah,
you said, he's a macho
that,
Camacho. He won't do it, but
he's got that stubborn attitude. But I think even he would like him. My buddy Jed, he's the same way, and you know, most games suck, and you know, it's got to be revolutionary, or you know, the perfect game for him, or he's not going to play it, and all that. I think he would play a lot of these games if you gave him a chance, and rather than just try to critique it before you even get a chance to play it. This one's a specifically, in my opinion, you got to try it to understand why. I mean, I heard everybody say that, but then I jumped in and played it, and I was just like you were saying. I was smiling while I was playing it. Like, wow, this is pretty good. This is fun. So definitely get out there and get it. So outside of Astrobot and Preda Vendetta Rising and stuff like that, what do you got on your plate? What have you been playing?
Yeah, so if we're talking backlogs, man, I have an infinite backlog for 20, going on 30 odd years of gaming. But so recently, I've been getting into a handful of things. I'm constantly playing PSVR. So we got Astrobot. I got to get back into the Persistence because they got a new update coming out with the Persistence, new game modes. That's a PSVR game. For those that don't know, people liken it to BioShock. It kind of has a feeling of BioShock a bit, but I wouldn't say that. It's more of like a Dead Space-ish thing, but it's kind of it's a stealth roguelike first-person sci-fi horror game. It's really fun.
Should I
that's a game
should I wait
I gotta
for
get
a
back
deal
into
at this point, or is that something I should buy? Like
Persistence, you should definitely buy it. It's on sale now, and they just released a bunch of new free stuff like today or tomorrow. And I think Adam might be streaming it as we speak, but I don't care about Adam's stream, so I'm not watching it. It's that's a fantastic game. It's one of those other must-have PSVR games. So that's a game I need to get back to. And then Adam only plays VR games. That's all he's interested in. I am an old school gamer, so I like the flat stuff too. And what I have gotten into recently, relatively recently, it's been a few months now, is have you ever heard of the NVIDIA Shield TV?
My buddy has the NVIDIA Shield device. One of the
Does he have like the handheld one, or does he have the one that plugs into the TV?
It plugs into the TV, and
Gotcha. Okay.
He's got a remote for it.
Yeah. So NVIDIA made this hardcore Android device, and it runs Android TV, and it's got I think it's got some of the same graphical power or graphical processors as the Nintendo Switch. So the Tegra processor. It's just basically a total beast of a TV set box, like a Roku box or an Apple TV, but it's NVIDIA and it's Android based. And NVIDIA has this thing called GeForce Now, where it's a game streaming service. So we've all heard of those. There's PlayStation Now, and there's Project Stream, and there was Gaikai back in the day. There's all sorts of these streaming services. And GeForce Now, if you have an NVIDIA Shield TV, you get a free subscription or whatever, or invite to the GeForce Now beta, which is basically a full-on GeForce Now application. And what it does is it sends all of the processing power. It does all the processing power on server side. So I don't have a big rig PC gaming computer, so I can't play these awesome games in 4K resolution and fantastic, beautiful stuff. But with the Shield TV, and I have decently fast internet access, I can have NVIDIA at their servers do all the processing power, and they can stream the video to me. And so if you're capable of streaming movies in 4K and stuff like that, you can probably stream games in 4K. And so what I've been playing recently is a lot of PC games I never got around to. Specifically, I've been playing Doom, the 2016 version. I've been playing that in 4K on my TV with a controller, and there's almost zero latency. People complain about latency in these services. If you get things set up right, you have a decent router, and you get things configured and update your drivers, it's a seamless thing. And I'm absolutely loving it. It's beautiful, and it's gory, and it's visceral, and it's all that I want it to be. And the success of that has led me to buy a whole slew of games on PC. So I bought a whole Bethesda set, and I have the games like Dishonored, and I can't even think of the Bethesda games that I bought. I got games. Oh, Prey. That's another one that I wanted to play. I got that.
Prey's a fun one.
These things are piling up on my backlog, and I'm enjoying playing flat games. It's been a while because I've been focusing so hard on the VR aspect, and it's really nice to sit down. I tend to forget sometimes that these 2D games, these flat games, they've been around for decades now, and these developers have really honed their craft. And so going from the VR space where you get a lot of indie developers trying new stuff out, and you have to try new things out. It's VR, it's a new space. you go from there to a space where, we know what we're doing. We know what gameplay is fun, and we know what is tight and exciting and thrilling. And it's nice to go back. So I'm really enjoying Doom 2016 or Very Doom as they call it. Yeah, that's a great game.
Interesting. I have the Doom, I don't know if it's 2016 version, but it came out a couple years ago on PlayStation 4. It must be the 2016 version, and I added that to my backlog a couple years ago, and started playing that like 6 months ago, and I played for 2 days straight, and then for some reason I didn't play it for another day and haven't jumped back into it, but I wanted to beat it, and just hearing you talk about it, I might get back in there and just finish that off.
Yeah, that's what happens to me is I keep wanting to like jump in and finish it off, and then I'll sit down and play it, and before I know it, it's 2 a.m. and I got to go to work the next day, and I'm like, I'm going to see you tomorrow, buddy, and then I don't play it for like another week, and then I'll remember and sit down and play it for like another 4 hours or something. It's just a truly beautiful game, and if you haven't, I highly suggest the VR version. There's a PSVR version. You can play it with the DualShock, you can play it with the aim controller, and you can play it with the moves. But with the moves, it's nigh unplayable because there's no turn button, and PSVR doesn't really work well for 360-degree like movement. So I would say if you have an aim controller, it's really fun. There's some kind of weird stuff. They don't really map the aim controller well. And DualShock, it's still really fun, but it's about half of the game as what the console game is. But it's still a fun, visceral time. It just doesn't have those cool combo kills. Instead, you teleport to the enemies and kill them.
Excellent. I will definitely. I do have that. I have it on disc because I bought that bundle for the Generation 2 headset, and it was basically free with the bundle. So
you have Generation 2. I need you to sell me on that, man, because I have a Generation 1, and I think my headset has been kind of broken from the get-go. Everything's tilted. It's always been tilted, and I just figured, whatever, it's something that I can't get over with. I'm going to
tell you on the tilt. I have a suggestion. I'm not going to say an answer, but I have a suggestion on the tilt. It might be how you're putting it on your head. On the Generation 1 headset, I had the same problem for a while until I figured out what was causing it for me. And on one side, you have the thick cable, and on the other side, there is no cable. But you're naturally trying to get this thing as close to your ears on both sides as possible, or you don't even realize you're doing it, but you pull it down so it's the same distance from your ears on both sides. But one side has this big thick cable, and just by millimeters, you're causing this shift. So you have to unnaturally lift one side just a little bit, and it feels like unnatural because the way it fits on your head. But I'm telling you, just check that out. You might have already done that test, but it felt like that was the resolution there. And ever since I did that and stopped putting it on just a little crooked, the angle went away.
Yeah, I'll try that. I feel like I've tried a bunch of stuff, and really, I just kind of want to get the new version. I mean, I play a lot of PSVR, and it's kind of my side gig, and so I feel like I should be as up to date as possible. I have a Pro because I wanted to be as up to date with PSVR as possible. So these version 2s are dropping in price. I could probably get one for about $200 now. And I also have a new setup where I have my PSVR set up in my bedroom, and I have my TV wall mounted on the wall. And my wife hates the fact. My wife would hate it if I had the TV wall mounted, went through all that trouble, and then had all these unsightly cords dangling down below. So what I did was the TV is mounted on a wall that is adjacent to the closet in our bedroom. And so
you were saying
in the closet in our bedroom, I set up the PlayStation, and I drilled a hole in the wall and ran the wires through. And that looks beautiful and looks fine. But what the problem it causes is now all of that real estate that I have in terms of the wires for the PSVR is getting eaten up just trying to get through the wall and under the TV and onto my headset. So I've heard, that connector cable that you have midway in the version 1, I don't think that's there on the version 2, and that thing is a huge problem for me when I play boxing games. I've uppercutted that thing about 8 times playing Creed in PSVR, and so I would love to just get a version 2, maybe get these cords consolidated and make things a little bit easier for me when I'm trying to not get knocked out by a 12-year-old.
I can give you what I would say is a selling point is that right there is the first one. You don't the cable, and it's one cable as opposed to 2 bound together, so it's not as thick. So it's not as heavy, hanging off the side of your head, pulling weight down while you're playing. And, you know, when you first put it on, anyone who puts on the VR unit, you feel the cable, it's annoying, but then you don't realize how heavy that cable is until you're standing up playing boxing or something like that, and it's just constantly getting in your way. So it's easier to get out of your way. I wouldn't say that by a thinner cable is not going to get in your way when you're boxing, but you can tuck it away, or I have this thing where I can hook it up to the ceiling. So it's just this little clip that goes on the ceiling, and so I have, on games like that, I have it coming from the top, so I'm not grabbing it and stepping all over it. So, but the other thing is, and I know that they said that there's no visual graphical upgrade or anything like that, but it seems to be, and it doesn't seem like a placebo effect. I have both headsets, and I've played games side by side, and for some reason, it's just clearer. Not a ton clearer, but it's noticeably to me, and I don't know if it's the lenses, but there's something about it that just feels better. It could be the shape. I mean, it might be just slightly shaped a little differently or something. I could be completely wrong, and all of those parts could be the same, but it definitely feels better on the head. The earphones are right there. They're both clipped onto the side, and they have a little pocket that you just tuck the earphones into when you're done, as opposed to try to deal with cables or anything like that. So on both sides, there's like a little hole. You just tuck them in. They drop down real easy. That there's no like major wire dangling for the earphones. The power button is on the headset, and what else? And the volume is all right there on the headset. So everything you need is right there, as opposed to halfway down the cable. And I think it feels better. So those two things alone were selling points for me, especially with the right price point. I was gonna sell the second unit, and then I decided against it. Let my kid play with it, and if he breaks it, he breaks it.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to go with it. I'm trying to figure out when I'm gonna put a VR headset on my daughter. They say wait till they're 12, but my brother's an ophthalmologist, and he told me there's no issue with it, so don't worry about it too much. I actually put a Google Cardboard on her a couple days ago, and she had her mind blown. Yeah. But then she did take it off her face, so I can't really let her play with that again. But maybe when she's 4, like your kid is, I might try it again. I stuck it on her head once when it was on the PlayStation home screen, and I was like, "Do you see blue stuff?" And she was like, "Yeah." And then I took it off her head, and that was that. But yeah, so I think you've sold me on the PSVR, the version 2. I wouldn't doubt that there's a graphical update to it, just in the fact that, I don't know how in the weeds people get with 3DSs. I used to read a lot about 3DS, and there was a situation where they used to have them made in one factory, and then they were suddenly made in a different factory, and that different factory used different components to make their 3DSs, and they looked better. The screens were better. It was an IPS screen instead of a TN screen. So I don't know exactly the specifics of the version 2 of the PSVR headset, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a new factory working on it and the lenses are just of higher quality, or the OLEDs used in the headset are just better, or whatever's going on. Maybe the cable is better and you're getting better data transmission, something like that. It might be a combination of all of those. So in technical aspects, apples to apples comparing components, there shouldn't be an upgrade, but a sum is greater than the sum is greater. No, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts type of thing, where you get this better experience, better graphics.
Yeah. And you would probably know better than me because you play more VR than I do, but I'd like to hear, if you do end up getting it, I'd like to hear your thoughts. Or you could say, damn you, Kevin. This isn't any different.
Yeah. I'm going to chew you out regardless, just because
exactly.
It's more entertaining to hear somebody chew somebody out.
You made me spend $200 and I love it. God damn you.
I love it. Damn you, Kevin. I love you and I love it. Don't talk to me again.
Oh, man. So yeah, this you were talking just a minute ago about putting it on your kid. Well, the first time I put it on my son, it was so funny to see, because I think it was not the shark encounter, but that experience. I didn't put him in the shark, but I put him on the headset and he's looking around and he's like, "Where did you go?" And I'm like, "No, you're in a virtual world. You're on a headset, And he's 7, so he was like 5, at the time. And he's like, "Yeah, but I hear you, but you're not here." And I'm like, yeah, it's a screen. It's like a TV screen, but it's up close to your eye. And he just like, couldn't comprehend it. You know, it was like, he's like, yeah, but you're not here. And then he took the headset off and he's like, wait, you're right here. You know, it was so funny to see. And now, now he's well aware and, understands what's going on. But at that time, it was just that instant mind blown, like, what the hell is going on here? You're not here with me. So, I wish I could get that experience every time I put the headset on and be like, wow, this is so good. I mean, a lot of them, it's hard to put yourself in that mindset of that, you're in that world. I think Astrobot definitely made me feel like, you kind of forget that you're playing a VR game and you're just morphed into this other world. Not a ton of games do that for me, but like you were saying, Stunt Kite Masters or something like that. Something that just, even if it's not the best game in the world, if it can take you out into a different element. And there was a game called Perfect VR. Nothing great about it at all. It's not perfect by any means, but the scenes look nice. And I actually put the headset on, and as uncomfortable as it was, I was like, I'm falling asleep with this headset on, sleeping next to the beach. And I completely forgot that after an hour, the PlayStation turns off and it makes a loud beeping noise, and the headset makes a loud beeping noise. So it scared the shit out of me, but I did it, and it was actually cool to fall asleep, next to a campfire in the middle of some island. And I just wish that you could wake up and be there as well. So that's that.
Yeah, that's something I was talking to Adam about too recently. Was VR had such a gee whiz component to it when we first played it, to where even a crappy game was good, and that it had the novelty of VR, and it took very little to make you feel like you were there. And now seasoned VR players are getting to the point where, if I just play a normal VR game, yeah, I get it. I'm surrounded by the scenery of the game. Show me something else. And I was worried that meant that VR was wearing out its welcome on me, and that it was unfortunately a gimmick. It was just a gimmick that lasted longer than the Wii waggle gimmick. But then I played Astrobot, and it really it shook me. Didn't shake me. It struck a chord with me. And then I go back and I play something like Rez, and I play Area X, and I become overwhelmed with a feeling of like, I don't even know how to describe it. And it's going to sound so stupid when I say this. I almost don't want to say it, but I play Area X and Rez, and I get this feeling that it's like a religious feeling almost, where it's like, you know what? Things in the world are really good, and there's a lot of good stuff going on in the world, and life is really good. Honestly, it's the same feeling I had when last time I had surgery and I took one of those opioids, and it just made me incredibly optimistic. Res Area X in virtual reality did that to me without any type of chemical interference.
Yeah, it's amazing. That is an amazing experience. Res, even the regular Res game was awesome, but that's why I cannot wait for Tetris Effect. I mean,
man,
the guys who did Res.
Yeah, tell me about Tetris Effect. Talking about Tetris Effect, because I cannot get enough of this. Go for it. Tell me. Talk to me.
And I'll talk about this all the time, because my brother was, and I talked about it last week, was the #1 Tetris player in the world for Tetris Worlds on Nintendo 64, I think. And this is back in a time where, websites weren't as fastly updated as they are today and things like that. So he was legit. He submitted his score on Tetris.com. And at the time, that was like the main game. So on the front page of Tetris.com was my brother with his high score. And it was legit. It was not a fake score. This guy would play this game, and he would get into this meld of just unbelievable playing. And so Tetris Effect, when they had that video, they talked about that guy who, one of the best Tetris players ever, or whatever, from Classic Tetris, and he tried the Tetris Effect and he loved it. It just really, it brought it home for me. It made me think, like, what would my brother, who's this like genius when it comes to Tetris, how would he play it? And so the Tetris Effect is a virtual and a flat version of Tetris, where the creator of Lumens and Rez and a couple of other really cool games, he put it together, and he wanted this musical, musically influenced experience of Tetris. Not just the game itself, not just the dropping blocks and going to the next thing, but having some kind of iconic experience where you're taken out of this current world and put into this new world that's And everyone who's played it, everyone who's talked about it, even the developers of other games were saying, yeah, that's the real deal. They were playing it at E3, and like some of them got some advanced screenings of it and stuff, and they were saying it's really good. I tend to lean on those types of reviews a little bit because they have no money in the game. You know, they're selling their own product, and now they're touting another one. So I say, okay, well, if it's good enough to take the developers and make them say, wow, the developers of other games in that same genre or same world, same system, then it's going to be good enough for me to give it a try. And I've fallen in love with the music of this game. I got the soundtrack because I pre-ordered it, and I'm looking forward to playing. I don't know what to expect other than that euphoria you're talking about. I hope to trap myself in this and just kind of be able to sit there for 4 hours playing Tetris, because that's the best part about Tetris, is that you can just go as long as you're capable of going.
Yeah, I think this is, a lot of people complained because this was like one of the big game announcements for PSVR at E3, and they're like, oh my god, it's just Tetris. I think people are underselling it. Like, we all know Tetris has this legendary status as a video game. You know, it might be the most popular video game that there has ever been. It's so widespread, and its influence is so long lasting that every single puzzle game ever since has been compared to it. And it has set like a benchmark that's almost impossible to surpass in terms of like a mixture of, you know, perfect game design with the simplicity and this ability and desire to want to play all the time. I feel like it taps into some primal thing in the human brain, like the logical processing component of the human brain that wants to make order out of disorder, you know, fight against that entropy. And because of that, I think in VR, there's going to be something special that happens in VR. So I used to, just as an aside, I used to listen to audiobooks on my phone, and the only way I would listen to them is when I would play Marvel Puzzle Quest on my phone as well, because there was something weird that would happen when I would play a puzzle game, and it's like I could get half of my brain to just like focus on this game and shut up and quit trying to solve the problems in my life and quit trying to think about what's going on. I could latch this logical, like, I guess the right or the left side of my brain, whatever, latch it onto this simple task to just do repeatedly. And then it would free up the rest of my brain to just really engage with the book that I'm listening to in audio form. And I feel like Tetris Effect is going to have that same feeling. So when I play Lumens, like you mentioned, I play that, and you play the puzzle game. It's a completely, you know, I want to say antiseptic type of gameplay where you just have these blocks and you drop them and you match them and whatever. And then it's blended with this completely artistic and, you know, aesthetically like fluid design. And that's a mesh of the left and right brain that makes things so great. And I feel like Tetris Effect is going to take that to the next level. You know, platforming is fun on a 2D game. Platforming is more fun and more engaging on a 3D game. And platforming is incredible in VR. Puzzles are fun in 2D. Puzzles can be really fun in 3D. We haven't seen the best 3D games, whatever. But in VR, I'm going to be able to latch my logical brain on this standard Tetris that I'm used to, this 2D flat element Tetris, more or less, while my left brain, the other side of my brain, is just going to be having like a mental orgasm, if you'll allow that.
Yeah.
To the surroundings of me, the music happening around me, the lights flashing, and the patterns dancing, and whatever's going on. It's going to be something incredibly special. I can only assume. I haven't played it. Unfortunately, I've had no opportunity to test this or play this at any expos or anything like that. But Tetsuya Mizuguchi knows what he's doing, and he doesn't screw around with this kind of stuff. And if this is really, it might just be PR spin, but if this is really what he was wanting to make when he made Lumines, and this is a VR version of that, my goodness, I'm ready to be blown away. You know, when they release big games like Call of Duty and stuff, they'll release like a $200 special edition pack that has so much stupid stuff that comes with it. And I've always been like, why would anybody buy that? My goodness, if they released a $500 special edition Tetris Effect pre-order pack, I would drop money on that instantly. I want everything to do with this game. I want to get this game tattooed on my arm. I am so obsessed with how the potential of this game that I cannot get it soon enough.
I'm with you. And you know what's funny? Another aside real quick, and it has a little bit less to do with video games, but going back to what you were saying about the left side and the right side thing. So I had a t-shirt company for about 10 years, and sometimes I'd get orders that would put me in this 10 by 10 bedroom making t-shirts from 8 o'clock at night till 4 or 5 in the morning. And I would just sit there and do this repetitive process of put a shirt down, lay it flat, tuck it in, press the button, turn around, hit that over there, get the other shirt, take it off. Like this production process. And so what I would do is I would put TV shows, like seasons of TV shows, and I would watch like entire seasons of things while I would do this. But I wouldn't watch it, right? I would listen to it because I had to watch what I was doing. I couldn't make mistakes. And so I will, to this day, I will remember something that happened in an episode that I never saw, but I can't remember that I didn't see it. Like my mind has absorbed it as if I saw it. And so I remember it as if I saw it because I think it's because I was doing something else that consumed that aspect, like you were saying. So to tie it into video games, some of my shirts have video game stuff. So there you go. Yeah, on top of Tetris Effect, and I know we're getting close to the hour here, but I wanted to bring up one other thing is Dreams VR. We keep seeing a little bit more and more and more about this. Do you think that Dreams VR will be half of what it is supposed to be, or what they're saying? Do you think it'll even come close?
So I'm gonna be the skeptic here. A lot of people are putting a lot of promise into Dreams VR, and they're hoping that this is going to be a system seller, and that this is going to be something that really moves units, and it's going to bring the reality of VR to the masses. The way Sony has been pushing Dreams, and the way it seems almost like the VR component is like the best kept secret of the Dreams production, doesn't bode well for me. Or doesn't bode well for the game in my eyes. I was never a huge fan of Little Big Planet, and I know that I'm in the minority there. A lot of people loved it, and this is the same studio that did Little Big Planet, But I've never been really excited about making stuff in VR and creating things and sharing it. I'm perfectly happy consuming the creations of others, though. However, the one thing, and it's kind of coming around full circle a little bit, the one thing that gave me showed a lot of promise for me for Dreams VR was that somebody recreated Astrobot in Dreams VR, and I only hope that that's just a testament to how wonderful and powerful this creation of Dreams VR is. And if people are able to recreate the magic of Astrobot in other forms in virtual reality, then Dreams VR will be something really special. I'm just concerned that the user base isn't present. We have 3 million, maybe 3.5 million now after Black Friday. After 2018, hopefully we're closer to 4 million, but I'm afraid we don't have the user base right now to make a game like Dreams VR really shine in VR. And maybe that's why they're not really hyping up the VR component. They want this game to sell systems on the flat component of it. But I just really hope that the VR component isn't ignored.
I'm wondering if the flat versions of worlds or whatever that people create will be able to translate into the VR. So like if we can get in there and play, I'm hoping that they do translate, that it's like kind of automatic. But I'm wondering if you create in VR, if you want to play in VR, you have to create in VR and vice versa. I don't know. That's one thing I have a concern about, like you said, about the base, because even a game like Disney Infinity, which relied on player creations and player worlds, that didn't last because people weren't creating the highest quality stuff out there. So, 100% what's going to happen in Dreams, the first thing that you can, just like in, what was it, Spore? People are going to make giant penises. That's the goal. They're going to be making boobs and penises. And
that's what I'm going to be doing, at least.
Yeah. I mean, we all will. And that's why, will that last? Spore was supposed to be this, I don't know if you remember that one, but that was supposed to be this amazing revolutionary thing. And it just came down to the character creator was funny, and people made, the monster with 40 dicks coming off its face and all that stuff. So we'll see. We'll see what the stuff I'm seeing in demos, and they seem to be pretty comfortable with those demos. They're not being shy. They're putting everything that they got, 8-hour sessions and things like that on these, play styles and stuff, building whole worlds in 4 hours and things like that. It bodes well for what's possible, but
Yeah, but those are paid game developers, right? Like this is their job is to make a fun game with the Dreams toolkit. And I know there's people out there that they obsess over it. Like you see some of those insane Super Mario Maker worlds and stuff like that. I know that's going to be out there. I hope it lives up to the hype. There's a lot of people putting a lot of stock in this, and I hope it doesn't. I hope Sony's not putting the same amount of stock in it that it seems the user base is putting in it. And I hope that they have other big guns to release in the future, to come after Dreams VR. And I'm sure they do. Astrobot I'm pretty sure it's been a great success. So I'm not too worried about it. I just know there's a lot of hype for Dreams VR, and it seems like
no launch date.
No launch date. Yeah, there's last time we had this many question marks about a game that was getting hype, I feel like it is a minor version of the Dreams VR hype. We were looking at Bravo Team, where it's like right up into the game's release, we were like, what is this game? Like things are kind of questioning. So I'm wary of getting hyped, and it's funny me saying that just after literally gushing my entire being over Tetris Effect and getting hyped for that. I'm wary of getting hyped for Dreams VR, but it's a talented dev group, and I know that they're putting a lot into this, and Sony must really believe in them because they've given them a long tether in terms of making this game and getting this game out there, and it seems like they're being very patient with them. So that could be a sign that there is something special there. So I'll get hyped maybe when we get closer and we know more about what's going on, but right now I have to be a little bit of a skeptic, and I just don't want people to get burned in VR because they expect one thing and they get something else.
Yeah, and I will say one thing to give some credence to the hype is when you look at games like Rec Room, which are the basic of most basic games you can get in VR, the content is there, the ability to create is there, and there's people making phenomenal things there. So I think that the people who are looking to do that kind of stuff, if the tools are available to them, they will. And that's what I'm hoping for. Because Rec Room is, it's basically me's running around, but there's so much content out there for that. And the devs there are constantly pushing stuff for that game. I mean, every couple of days I'm getting an email about a new update for that game. So, it gives me hope for a game like Dreams. I'm just hoping that Dreams isn't overly complicated so that people are afraid or just can't do what these devs are doing. Like you said, they're paid game developers and they're building this stuff. So maybe it won't be as easy to jump in and do it as it is in Rec Room, for example.
Yeah, I gotta admit, you're absolutely right. Rec Room has a small user base, install base, and there is a lot of really creative and amazing stuff, and that's a free game. And these people aren't paid game developers that are making some of this awesome stuff in there. So I have to give credit where credit's due, and I think you're absolutely right about that. And Dreams does hold a lot of promise. And my other question about Dreams is Dreams VR, is there going to be a multiplayer component to it, or are you only going to be able to share your creations? Like, am I going to be able to make a world and then run through it with you, Kevin? And can I make a Backlog Exposed podcast world, and then where I can take you into this world and I can show you, I can expose my backlog to you. I can make you look at my backlog.
I'll show you my backlog in my VR Dreams world.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good, that's a good plot to a movie.
Yeah. I know you're wondering why I brought you here today. Open that door. You'll see a bookshelf full of PlayStation 2 games. That is my backlog.
So, Alex, what else do you have on your plate? Anything else you want to talk about as we wind it down here?
Yeah, I mean, PlayPSVR, the podcast, PlayPSVR.com. I don't have too much else to talk about. This is one of the things I love to do. I love talking about video games. I've been in love with video games since I was like 3 or 4 years old. And, when all my friends grew out of it and when my older brother moved on and stopped playing games, I was in the thick of it. And I started college knowing that I was going to make games. And then I moved away from that, and I'm not in the game development scene. I still, to this day, I kind of want to get into it, but who knows what's going to happen. I got other responsibilities now, but I love being a part of video games in some capacity. And so I love being a part of, Play PSVR, the podcast, and PlayPSVR.com. I love VR. It's extremely fun. I'm excited about the Oculus Quest coming out. Even though I'm focused on Sony, I don't have an Oculus Rift or a Vive or anything like that. but I'm excited about the opportunities to have a completely standalone 3D tracking 6 Degree of Freedom VR headset. That's something I'm going to be looking forward to. Going to start saving up for that. But yeah, this is what I, aside from my family and my work, this is what I live for, man. I love this stuff. I love VR and I love video games, and I'm loving being on podcasts. So I really want to thank you for having me on, man. This is great. I love talking to you. We need to party up and shoot some people and run around on PSVR online and stuff like that. But
yeah.
So, listen to our podcast. If you guys are interested in PSVR, we love listeners. We love all the feedback. We get a lot of polite and good feedback. I want somebody to trash us in the feedback because that stuff is exciting.
Challenge.
Specifically, if you can, I want somebody to trash Adam. So listen to our podcast and find us on Twitter at PlayPSVR. And I want you to just talk so much trash about Adam, because I don't know if he's going to listen to this. He should listen to it, because this is the sign that I set somebody up. This is like the hit I'm putting out on Adam. Don't kill him, really. Don't go out and kill him. But I need people to trash Adam. Find Adam on Twitter at PlayPSVR and just dog him mercilessly.
Or, better yet, he's been playing he's been on Twitch, right? You can hit him live.
Yeah.
You can hit him live right where it hurts.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things when I see he's streaming on Twitch, and it's the most immature thing. I mean, I'm 30-something years old, and I should be grown out of this by now. When I see Adam playing on Twitch, the first thing I do is get into his game and get into the chat box and then type in the word scrotum, because it'll just pop up in VR. When you get stuff on Twitch, it just pops up the comment right in front of your face. And I just want the word scrotum to pop up in his face. Then I duck out. I don't watch the whole thing. Pop in there, scrotum, and then bail.
That's perfect. That is perfect. So let's get a whole lot of scrotums to Adam and trash him.
Hashtag scrotums to Adam.
Yeah. Let's show them the love of the backlog and the love of PSVR, play PSVR, and let's hit him with some scrotums right in the face.
Yeah.
Well, Alex, thanks for being here, episode 21. This is it's been a lot of fun. Definitely we'll have you back, and I'd love to get Joe either on your show or have you guys come back over here and talk with him. He's a hell of a lot of fun. He's just been so busy. So hopefully things will start to normalize there as he's buying a house and all that good stuff. But again, thank you for filling in the void while he was absent today.
Yeah, man, I've loved it. And anytime, if you need somebody to fill in, let me know, and I can arrange my schedule. Hopefully, I love doing this stuff, and I really want to get Adam and Joe on the same podcast and just let those Kentucky feathers fly. Wait, what did I say? Kentucky feathers fly. There we go. Yeah, those dudes. I just feel like that's going to be a crazy situation with Adam and Joe. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm sure they'll. Sit back and relax. You'll hear their accent twang start kicking in and all that.
Yeah, talking about who's got the hotter cousin and stuff like that.
Joe just called in. He has something to say.
I like this blue ball. It's nice, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, I love it.
Thanks, Joe. Thanks for pitching in. We'll talk to you in a couple of days. Wait, what were you saying again?
Do the I'm Joe. I heard that on the podcast. I love it. I want that on my own podcast. Do it.
I'm Joe. Yeah. I'm Joe. A little bit of something. I like this blue ball. It's nice, man. 3 hours later.
Oh man, it's this soundboard thing, man. I have too much fun with it.
Yeah, they're a lot of fun. I need to get one for our podcast and just fill it with the sounds from your podcast.
That'd be funny. You just start interrupting with
I'm Devin. I'm Devin. I'm Devin.
And I'll be like, what the hell is that?
Oh, beautiful.
All right. Well, with that all being said, thanks everybody. And I'm Kevin.
And I'm Alex.
And this is
The Backlog
Exposed. And I'll edit that so it sounds crisp. Okay. Don't worry about it. Thanks again for joining, and we'll be talking to you again soon. And everybody, check out PlayPSVR.com. Check out PlayPSVR, the podcast, the Twitter, all that good stuff. And while you're at it, hit up the BacklogExposed.com. We also have a new Facebook group. It's facebook.com/groups/the Backlog Podcast. Sorry for all the different names and all that crap, but things are taken, so that's how it is. And with that, you have to request access to our group. For some reason, Facebook doesn't let me blast you all with invites and stuff. So jump on in. That's where the discussion can happen. And you'll be able to see new updates and things like that, because Facebook hides it from everybody else. So everybody have a great rest of your day and a great weekend. We'll be back to you early next week. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.